But a lot of us neglect what might happen after we're 50 or 60 or 70 or 80 years old. We might not be thinking of ourselves as someone who will become vulnerable someday. And life is going to keep asking those really hard questions, especially that one, did you plan for this?
Did you plan for this? Or did you miss? When life demands answers you can't dismiss. Will you be ready when the trumpet blows? Do you have the blueprint for life's unknowns?
Welcome to the show, Plan for This. I'm Ron Greenwald with my incredible co-host, Marguerite Lorenz. Will you be ready when life asks, did you plan for this? What does that mean to you?
Well, gosh, we all know life is full of surprises. And sometimes we wonder, why me? And that's really life asking this big question, right? Did you plan for this? And there's a lot of things that we plan for. We might think about the school we want to attend or the person we want to marry. And hopefully we have some support and some love to have those big, important conversations about those chapters of life. But a lot of us neglect what might happen after we're 50 or 60 or 70 or 80 years old. We might not be thinking of ourselves as someone who will become vulnerable someday. And life is going to keep asking those really hard questions, especially that one, did you plan for this? So I want to encourage people to look around their house, look around their life. What do you think you might be like as an 80-plus-year-old? How mobile do you think you'll be? Are you planning for being healthy and strong and able to ski? I mean, may everyone get their ski for free, right? If you live long enough and you stay mobile enough, you might be able to have those opportunities. So that's why we ask the question, did you plan for this?
So being ready, what does that mean to you? How would you interpret that?
Well, personally, I made the decision to move to a 55-plus community. Not everyone's going to decide that. But if you're living in an apartment, if you're living in a condo, if you take the stairs when you bring home your groceries, good for you. Those are all great things. But again, we're trying to think about what ready means. If you fell and hit your head and suddenly, well, who's going to feed the cat? Who's going to make sure your car is parked on the correct side of the street? Who's going to help you with these day-to-day living things that you might not have specifically planned for, but hopefully you've planned to give someone authority, give somebody a key, give somebody a way to help you if you're really in trouble. And they should also know that you're in trouble. So being ready to me and being in this phase means I've thought about that a little bit. What would my life look like if I couldn't live it on my terms?
With your 20 plus years of experience, and you've talked to thousands of people, you've presented to thousands of people, you're an author. Is there a common thread of why you feel people do not plan?
Oh, it's terrifying. I mean, it's hard to think about what I might be like when I'm different. And for a lot of people, I think that just thinking about it, they go, oh, no, I don't want that to happen. And you think just by thinking about it that thing is going to happen. Maybe if you repeat it to yourself often and you keep setting your intentions in that direction, but what if you could set your intentions in a different way? What if you could actually picture what that might look like? Stephen Covey is a great teacher, and he taught the 7 habits of highly successful people. And one of the things he taught was about thinking from the end. Well, I want you to think about your last day on the planet. Okay, I know, terrifying. But we're safe. You're in a safe place. You're listening to this. You're watching us. Just think about it for a minute. And how do you want to look back on your life? What do you think will make you feel like you did it right? That you're satisfied? That you feel successful? What if we could picture that and then start building our life towards it so we feel safe and comfortable for most of our life? We all know stuff happens. We know there's surprises all the time. But for me personally, having that estate plan done, knowing who that person is who would actually look after my stuff, my funds, my kids, my life, and so on, I'm not that afraid. I've gotten rid of the fear, and that's what I'm inviting people to do by listening to us and being with us. Independent Trustee Alliance is a proud nonprofit sponsor of Plan for This. If you are considering serving as a trustee, please visit trusteealliance.com to learn more about this complex and sometimes overwhelming job. trusteealliance.com. Plan for This thanks the Estate Sale Warehouse for all their amazing service and support. Entire home cleanouts, inventory, appraisal, auctions, sale of fine art and classic cars. Learn more at estatesalewarehouse.com.
So let's take the next line of the tile that you read.
Sure.
It says, your family, your legacy. The choices you make today will shape your future. You got a little bit into that, but let's dive deeper into that. Legacy, what does that mean?
Well, let me ask you a question. How do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be remembered as somebody who just kind of faked it until they made it? Do you want to be remembered as someone who was really thoughtful and considerate and put some things in order so it wouldn't be a mess for somebody else? If we just start in small increments wherever we are in life today, if we just take this step by step, okay, I know getting an estate plan feels like a really big mountain to climb. It's not really. You're the expert of your life. Your legacy might just be having all your bills paid. Your legacy might be that work of art that you've been working on for the last few years and it's not done yet. Your legacy might be your kids. So, yes, every one of your choices does feed into your future. And if you start now, you can possibly make decisions that would give you a little more financial security when you're older and you don't want to work as much. That might make sure that your kids go to school if you couldn't see them through it yourself. There's a lot to decide. And I'm here because I've seen a lot of people avoid it. And then the crisis happens. And then what happens? You have to go to court to give somebody authority. The person themselves don't even know what's happening, but it has to be done. It would have been so much better if they had an estate plan.
Well, within that line, it's your family. And that seems to be, is that the crux of all of this? I'm not going to talk about it.
Well, it's very difficult to have conversations with people that you love when you don't know the answer for yourself. I want you to feel safe. If you don't feel safe talking to your family, then talking to professionals might be the thing for you. Some of us don't have family, Ron. I mean, some of us don't have anyone we can trust or rely on. What do we do? Well, you got to find somebody and you got to be proactive about it because I don't know when that thing is going to happen. I use fall and hit your head a lot because it's something we can all relate to. But let me tell you just a little story. So we have a lady who's lived independently her whole life. She never married. She didn't want to. She had an amazing career. She loved her job. And eventually it was time to retire from that job. So she's living alone. She has friends, her neighbors. They have dinner occasionally. In fact, a couple of other neighbors are also single and they have Thanksgiving together. It's beautiful. She has built a really nice life. She has friends at the library. She has people that she meets with on a regular basis. But it happened one day. Her trash cans didn't go out. Her neighbor noticed that her trash cans weren't out. What does the neighbor do? The neighbor comes by and knocks on the door. The car's in the driveway, the trash cans are not out, nobody's answering the door. What do you do next? What does anybody do next? Well, this neighbor and my client had talked to each other. My client and I had had this conversation. I said, you need to give your neighbor some instructions. What if you can't answer the door? Do you want her to call the sheriff and do a well check? That would be reasonable. Does she have a key to your house? How do you want this to go, right? So they made a plan. And it turns out the neighbor knocked. She went to the back of the house through the backyard and knocked again because that's what they had agreed. She saw her friend lying on the floor in the kitchen. She went back to her house to go get the key, came back and opened the door and found that her friend was alive but unconscious. She was able to call 911. So that set a lot of things in motion. Her friend, my client, never fully recovered her capacity to live independently. But I knew, because we had talked prior to this event, her neighbor had talked prior to the event, and her neighbor, it turns out, was her agent for healthcare, and I had the other jobs, trustee, executor, and power of attorney. So we worked as a team, and we made it so that person could continue to live in her house, but now she needed some care and she needed more attention. So that's what I mean by planning ahead and the things we're talking about.
Okay. So the universal need for planning. Everyone lives in the same uncertain world. Everyone needs an estate plan. Now, again, every state is different.
Sure.
But still, everyone needs a plan. Why?
Well, just in the example that I shared, let's say there was no plan for my client. She had nothing in writing. Her neighbor finds her on the floor in the kitchen. She never regains capacity. So in many states, in every state, there's a body of law called the probate code. Probate is a procedure to either move assets along or to protect a human being from themselves or from being very vulnerable. And so there's a body of law that governs the things that we're talking about. Each state in the United States has its own laws about it. So because there's no documents, there's no plan, I'm not in the picture because nobody named me in advance of the need. So this lady now found on the floor in her home may go to the hospital, but who's going to come get her from the hospital? Who's going to manage her bills? Who's going to do it? And I hear you thinking about auto pay, or you've got your bank paying your bills. That only works because you're vigilant and you're looking at how those bills are being paid. So just to round this up, if you don't have a plan, what ends up happening is that it's the crisis that makes the decision. It's the hospital administrator who figures out that no one's coming. It's now, oh, well, somebody has to go to court. Somebody has to present to the judge that this lady can no longer manage her own affairs. Maybe she's going to be under a guardianship. In California, we call it conservatorship. But that's a terrible process. And that also means that your inability to manage for yourself is public. It means that somebody has to go through your house and figure out what you've got and how to pay the bills and so on. Somebody you've never met or talked to before. And if that excites you, do nothing. Go ahead, do nothing. But honestly, I can't live that way. I can't live not knowing what would happen to me if I was in a car accident or, stepped off the curb or so. Anything could happen.
Well, people, yeah. It's not just, so again, then I think that leads right into the next. It's not just for the wealthy and elderly. So protect what matters most, you. You've just described that you step off the curb. You're in a situation that who knew that the plane would flip over.
And we use those words wealthy and elderly on purpose. Because you know what? We each have a definition for what that means. Elderly might be anybody who's 10 years older than you. Okay? So you're 20. Why do you need a plan? You don't have anything. Well, you certainly do have something.
You have you.
You have you. You have your future. You have your dreams. You have maybe someone you care about. Maybe somebody cares about you. So we have to examine this. We have to look at it occasionally and go, I have a life. What does that mean to me? What is my life? And wealth is such an immeasurable thing. If I have more in the bank than it costs to pay my bills, I'm ahead. Ben Franklin would say, hey, you're doing great, right? But maybe I'm behind. But even if I'm behind, maybe I need some help at some point. I have to learn how to ask for help. And elderly, listen, we all suffer from a little ageism. And by the way, we all live a little bit longer if we let some of that go. Okay? I have never been this healthy before, this strong before. I've also never been this old before.
Every day.
Every day. Every day. I'm grateful and I'm doing the work. So I'm inviting everyone to think about, what are your definitions of wealth? What are your definitions of elder? And I want you to know that both of those things are in your future, no matter who you are.
I'll share just before we go to the next line. It's so adorable when my children who are in their 30s go, wow, Dad, you were so right 30 years or 10 years ago or 15 years ago. My children now are at a point where they are starting to get a little bit more cautious in the things that they may do or not do. And so it's just an evolution. And so everybody needs that plan.
Yeah, I do appreciate being a little smarter in the eyes of my children, right? We all need life experience. Look, nobody becomes who they are without the trials and tribulations we experience. Okay, we all have trouble. We all have things we wish didn't happen. We all have that. But now we have this power to take some of those negative lessons. Like, I'm talking to the 50, 60 somethings right now when I say, did you like how your sibling handled your mom's estate? Are you going to do that to your kids? Are you just going to put it off and not think about it? If you've ever inherited something, I want you to think about that. Somebody thought about you when you weren't in the room. Somebody wrote your name down. Somebody thought about how this was going to be delivered to you. Well, yeah, pay it forward. Do the work. And I know it's hard. That's why I'm not saying this lightly. I'm here to help you.
So that really, if you want answers and resources, as life takes you on the roller coaster ride, listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
What do you want people overall theme to be?
Well, I want you to visit our website, planforthis.com. I want you to know that we're going to keep building a resources page so you have some place to kind of look. I want to have toolkits available for people that give us their email address. So maybe you don't know how to hire an attorney. Maybe you've never done that before. A lot of us have never done that before. Good for you that you've never needed an attorney for something. Okay?
Hard to believe, but
yeah. They're do-it-yourself software programs. I'm not selling those. I'm not selling my services. Don't hire me to be your trustee. That's okay. But you got to think about who's going to do that job. And I do recommend that you talk with an attorney if you can. And I want to give you tools to be able to hire one. So that's just one facet of the things that we're talking about. As you can imagine, we're dealing with tax, legal, financial, and medical things. We want to talk about quality of life. We want to talk about some of those choices that you have and the people you can rely on. And maybe even how to be in relationships so that you have real support. Because I got to tell you, the scammers are out there. They're learning more and more about us individually all the time. We share our feelings, we share our hopes and dreams, and somebody might take advantage. Let's protect ourselves against that.
An interesting side is if you have just go in for a simple medical procedure at the doctor's office at the hospital, and they will ask you, do you have a power of an attorney? Do you have an estate plan? This just happened to me. And I said, well, of course I do. I do. And I just was curious. I asked the nurse who was prepping me for this procedure. I go, what percentage of people do not have anybody named or any documents? I was floored. She said 9 out of 10
have no plan.
No person. And now my procedure was a procedure that you do when you are over 50. So I'll let everybody read between those lines.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine. So I'm going, this is an older crowd coming in for this procedure. And I am asking at a very prominent hospital in San Diego County, Green Hospital. And I'm asking the question, how many people have any documentation? And the answer is, well, I'm married.
Oh, it's not enough, kids. Kids, it's just not enough.
To address that.
Okay. So again, everyone's concerned about liability. You go to the hospital and they're concerned about their own liability. They have paperwork for you to sign. And in my case, I got an advanced healthcare directive, right? So my husband is listed as my agent. I've actually empowered him. I've given him authority to make a decision about me. I must trust him a lot, right? To make a decision about me if I can't participate in the conversation. And the medical community is always going to ask you first, but you might not understand the consequences of a certain procedure. You might not understand their words. They might not understand yours. So you got to have somebody. But just to say it's my spouse, and honestly, what if you and your spouse are not really getting along right now? What if you're concerned that your coffee might taste funny sometime? We have to be practical about this. And the hospital is going to do what you want. They're going to talk to the person you select. But if you don't select one, we're back to the court cycle we talked about before. We're back to the fact that the hospital is not going to make those decisions. They're going to put it off on someone with legal authority to do so. Why? Because they have shareholders, because it's a business they're running. That's why. And it's not anybody's fault. This is the system we're in.
So we are here to unmask the mystery of estate and life planning. And I really use the word life planning, and that's what I'd like you to address, unmasking. What does that mean to you?
I think we use our imaginations mostly for the negative. And yet we're not using our imaginations for creating tools and empowerment. I think worry is the wrong use of imagination. I was a single mom. I had 2 little boys. They were wonderful kids. And I was really all they had. Okay, what happens to them if something happens to me? That was such a big question for me. And I came into this work and I got this incredible education that most people never even hear about. You're talking about 9 out of 10 people getting a procedure don't have any paperwork. Well, there have been studies done, and only about a third of American adults have any kind of plan. And I would argue most of those plans are not going to work. We'll talk about that sometime. But those studies have been done, and it's true. Very few of us actually have been brave enough to utilize our imagination, to ask for help, to connect with some professionals, because we live day to day. We live paycheck to paycheck. We live Friday to Friday. Most people don't live Monday to Monday, right? But I'm going to say to you, if you're complaining about Mondays, hey, they happen 52 times a year. So we have to get past the day to day. We have to look beyond the week. And we have to kind of see what we want in our future and do our best to work towards it.
Well, the empowerment of having it done.
Oh, the relief I experienced when I finally got my documents done. And by the way, just getting the estate planning documents is really not enough. You really have to make sure that all of your assets line up with the documents that you've created. And we'll talk about those things too. But the point is that I got my documents done. The attorney I was working with knew my situation and accepted my small monthly payments. So it took me a year to pay off my estate plan. But once I had it, man, driving on the freeway was a whole different experience. I stopped thinking about what happens to my kids if I don't make it home. I stopped thinking about that. You know what that means? I had room to start thinking about other things. I mean, my life opened up with such empowerment, with such possibility, because the worst things that could happen, I had a plan for that.
So that's where the podcast and the future podcasts through real life stories, and we have lots of those. You have lots of those.
I do.
Lots of great guests, professionals, people that have literally lived it, candid conversations. We're going to explore what it takes to build a future of clarity, confidence, and family harmony. And that last one, family harmony, you and I have witnessed way too much dysfunctionality and disintegration of family after the fact. So I would like you to address where we're going in this plan for this podcast.
Sure. Listen, none of us are perfect. I don't even know what normal is. And a lot of us are just wishing we could just be quote unquote normal. And you might think that your family is really screwed up. And I got news for you. No family is perfect. No communication is perfect. And mostly it's about expectations and expectations management, right? We might expect our mom to always be there. No, she's not always going to be there. That mom might expect her kids to just take care of it, whatever it is, whenever it happens. They got a busy life. They got kids of their own. They're trying to build their business. They're Maybe they're in a divorce process. Maybe they're in a marriage process. Maybe they have a blended family. But we can't just keep expecting other people to be there for us. We have to ask them. We have to talk to them about it. We have to take the risk that they might say, oh, not me, because I can't, or I won't, or I don't want to. And you have to respect the no. So I'm hoping that more family harmony comes out of people doing this work because they took the risk. They wrote down what they wanted to have happen. They talked to their professionals. Maybe they present it to their family. Maybe they don't. And we can talk about all of those different ways of getting this done.
So the key takeaways, and we'll take one at a time for the podcast, navigate, and we've addressed it a little, navigate family dynamics, sibling rivalry, jealousy, and tough conversations.
That's a tough
that's
one.
a tough one.
Right? I mean, we have adult children and we're blessed. Our kids are great. Not everyone has that. Some people really struggle. They don't really know what their kids are up to or what they're doing. They wish they knew. Some people talk with their kids all the time, but they still don't really know what's happening for that person. And we have people we love out there in the world. Maybe it's your parents you're concerned about, and you don't want your sibling to be the one with the keys to the car, the keys to the house, the checkbook, because they were brutal to you when you were a kid. Well, how do you make sure your parents don't pick him or her to be the trustee? Well, on the one hand, it's kind of none of your business. It's mom and dad's money. They can do what they want. They can pick who they want. But what if you got your own estate plan done and you got to understand what goes into that? And now you're able to go back to your family and say, hey, each one of you need a plan. And each one of us needs to be able to rely on each other. Could we talk about how that would work?
So that's an interesting juxtaposition, I guess, if that's the right phrase. You've turned it around. Instead of waiting for mom and dad to show you their plan, you, as the child, show your plan to them.
Simon Sinek is a great teacher about leadership. And he's got some great lessons about this. He wrote the book, Start With Why. And Simon basically has said, you can't wait to be CEO to express your leadership. Leadership is about how you treat the other people around you. Well, if you're going to take responsibility for your life, if you're going to get your documents done, you're expressing leadership right there. And I would argue that real leaders get their estate plans done. Why? Because they're considerate and thoughtful. And they gave some time and energy to their future. You want to be a leader? Get your plan done.
I love that point because by getting your estate plan done, you're reducing the burden on others. So even from a selfish perspective, I know you're helping yourself and we want you to help yourself, but really think of the ones around you who are going to be in turmoil.
This is a great place to bring up that I see estate planning as your oxygen mask. So, Ron, you've done some traveling. What's the rule about the oxygen mask in an airplane?
The child first. Or yourself first. I'm sorry, yourself first before the child.
Right. And by the way, a lot of people put the child first, right? They're helpless, they need my help, and so on. But we're talking about losing oxygen in the cabin. So we're talking about losing your capacity, aren't we? So the idea is you have to put your own mask on first before you can help another person. You have to stay healthy, ready, mentally alert to help someone else. Well, estate planning is the very same thing. We have to put on our own oxygen mask. We have to do our own plan first, and then we can focus on what happens to the kids, what happens to our parents. I would say that we probably have a large number of our listeners who are the ones stuck doing everything. They take care of the parents, they take care of the spouse, they take care of the children, they take care of the house. No offense meant to any men, but mostly women do these jobs. True. Okay. And what happens to that whole system that you are in the middle of? What happens if something happens to you? So, sisters, I'm asking you to put your oxygen mask on and get this hard thing done with some help.
because a lot of them are caregivers.
Well, sure.
And then that role is really their health decline.
And let's talk about that too. It's very stressful. You're dealing with visiting at a hospital, picking up clothes. I did it for my dad. My stepmom died right before my eyes. I've had these life experiences. I understand how this goes. And it's hard to think about because you're so busy doing all these other things. Can you think about your grocery list and think about your estate plan at the same time? My first notes about my estate plan were on my shopping and my to-do list.
Okay. Well, there you go. That's a tip. There you put it on your...
There you go, right? Just start somewhere. Start somewhere. And if you're most worried about what would happen to that incapacitated elder, then give it some thought. Who's going to do my job? No one's going to do it as well as you. I'm sorry. No one's going to work as hard as you do. No one's going to be perfect at this. But somebody needs to know where to find the list of medications. Somebody needs to know what doctor mom has. But nobody else knows.
Passwords.
Oh, well, that's for a whole show.
That's a whole show.
Right?
The human side of estate planning.
Well, we're talking about it, aren't we?
That's kind of an overarching. So gain clarity and confidence in making legacy decisions through education, through listening to this podcast.
Well, sure. You got to start somewhere. And I really want this to be a safe place for people to at least hear somebody else's story, see what parts of the story spark your feelings, your preferences. Because guess what? We cannot predict the future. I'm not telling you you're going to fall and hit your head. I'm telling you something's going to happen. So because I can't predict exactly how and when, I'm going to write down my preferences. If this, then that. What if this happens? Then what do I want? That's a tough thing. A lot of us haven't thought about it. So as you listen to me speak, as you read what I write, as you read my newest book, as you visit us
Ask you questions.
But also think about it. If you feel something, I don't want that to happen, or, I think I like that, write it down, put it somewhere. It's so important. We have our phones with us all the time. Use notes, use some tool in your cell phone.
Siri.
Write yourself a reminder. I love using a note-taking app that I have because I can access it from my computer, or I can access it from any computer with my password, right? So I have basically a running list. And when my list gets long enough, I call up the attorney and say, I think I need to update my documents because I've had these other preferences come up for myself.
I mean, I think it's great if people will listen to other stories of their friends, because everybody has lived this through friends, family members. And if they listen to others, they'll come up with, I don't want that to happen to me. What if? And get in touch with us.
Well, how is it true that everybody needs a plan? I love what you say about that, Ron, right?
The 100% death rate.
Yeah, there's 100%. Every family has a dead person. Every family, right? So if you look at that and you say, wow, that person did that really well, I should do the same, you need an estate plan. If you look at it and go, oh my God, they caused such trouble. There are people who never speak to each other again. That you have some preferences around that. You need to get your estate plan done. So I'm sorry, you can't get away from me.
No, we're not. So now when life asks, did you plan for this? You'll be ready. And that's summarizing what we're all about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel because I have a written estate plan, I don't have to predict the future. I don't have to know exactly what the crisis will be. I do want to keep my documents up to date because I change my mind from time to time or I learn something new. But at the same time, if I never changed it, at least everyone can see my intention. They can see my preferences and they'll do the best they can to take care of me when the time comes. I want that for everyone.
And that's what we're going to do.
Yes.
Marguerite Lorenz, plan for this. Please, summarize, you are so passionate for this. And you are an author, a speaker, a lecturer. And summarize your hope for those listening to this podcast.
I want you to have the kind of peace where new ideas come freely. I want you to put your arms around someone you love and not just feel that love, but really having done something that protects yourself and that person. Keep the love going as long as possible. Right before Jane passed away, my stepmom, my business partner of 14 years, the founder of our company, Jane, what do you want the world to know? I know you're on your way off the planet. What do you want people to know? And she said, love as much as you can. And that's what I'm doing.
Money management and